They said I drowned. They broadcast my final words, my voice trembling with despair, begging for forgiveness I never owed. But the voice wasn't mine. It was crafted from my own software, twisted by the very people who toasted my death with champagne. My husband, my sister-in-law, even my own code turned against me. While the world mourned a version of me I never recognized, I was already rebuilding, breath by breath, in the silence of exile. They thought they'd erased me, but the algorithm they used has a memory, and every memory leads back to the truth. You're not ready for how I returned. The launch of Resonance was supposed to mark the beginning of something extraordinary. I remember standing under the sterile white lights of the conference hall, my voice echoing back through the walls like a hymn. "We didn't just teach machines to speak," I said into the mic. "We taught them to feel." Applause erupted. Ethan squeezed my hand gently, smiling like the proud husband he played so well. Isabel stood in the second row, clapping just long enough to seem genuine. They hadn't seen her in 3 years. She'd left after a mysterious falling out with the family, citing irreconcilable trauma. But suddenly, she was back, with perfect timing. Ethan had welcomed her without question. "Family heals when it's ready," he said. I wanted to believe him. A week later, Isabel hosted a small dinner at our summer estate. No press, she'd insisted. Just us, just peace. It was warm that night. The patio was strung with soft lights, jazz trickled from hidden speakers, and the table glowed with wine and laughter. Isabel raised her glass to healing and to my brilliant sister-in-law who's finally made the machines cry. I laughed. The wine was already humming in my veins. Ethan leaned in and whispered something about escaping the city, just the 3 of us. Isabel nodded quickly. "I booked the yacht," she said. "You deserve the ocean." It was beautiful. I can't deny that. 3 days on the water, no cell service, just sea and sky. The boat was sleek, silent, luxurious, in a way that made you feel like time was suspended. On the first night, Isabel cooked. On the second, Ethan brought out a playlist he'd made for us on our honeymoon. We danced under moonlight, swaying against the gentle rock of the waves. But on the third night, I noticed the silence between them. Too synchronized, too rehearsed. And then there was the wine. I took one sip and my throat burned differently. Not like alcohol, like something medicinal. My limbs grew heavy. I stood to get air, but the deck tilted, or maybe I did. The stars above smeared together, and my last memory was Ethan holding my wrist a second too long, his voice just a beat too calm. "You should rest." When I woke, water filled my mouth. The cold was immediate. It stabbed through every layer, cutting straight to bone. I surfaced with a gasp, salt burning my throat. The boat was already drifting away. I could see Isabel standing at the stern. She was holding a phone, speaking softly. My voice echoed over the waves. "I'm sorry," it said. "This is my goodbye. I couldn't keep pretending everything was okay." I screamed, but it was lost in the wind. The voice was perfect, too perfect. I knew the cadence, the exact pauses. It was resonance. My creation, my voice, weaponized. I treaded water until the yacht disappeared into the dark horizon. No rescue came. No spotlight, no panic, just silence. My body numbed. The world shrank. And for a moment, I let go. I don't know how long I drifted. Hours? A day? Time dissolved. My next memory is a ceiling. Peeling paint, dim fan blades spinning above me. The air was thick with antiseptic and ocean salt. "You're lucky," a voice said. Male, hoarse. "You washed up like a ghost." I turned my head. A man with stubble and sunburned skin sat beside me, flipping through a tattered notebook. "Name's Jordan," he said. "You were half dead on the beach." My lips cracked when I tried to speak. "Where?" "Mexico, South Coast, off the grid." I tried to sit up. Pain lit every nerve. "Easy," he warned. "You've got a concussion. Dehydration. Maybe betrayal, too. You said Isabel in your sleep." That name means something? I stared at him. My voice trembled. They think I'm dead. He tilted his head. Should they be wrong? I didn't answer. Not yet. But I felt something shift inside me, colder than water, sharper than glass. Resonance hadn't just stolen my voice. It had taken my life. And if they thought I'd let that go quietly, they'd forgotten who built the algorithm in the first place. Jordan's place was a crooked shell of a house sitting on the edge of the beach, windows rattling against the wind, but inside it was lined with tech, servers stacked like makeshift furniture, dusty monitors flickering in the dark. He lived like a ghost, but coded like a god. And when I showed him the last audio file broadcasted before my death, he didn't even flinch. "Where did you get this?" he asked. "They made it public," I said. A farewell message with my voice, even my hesitation, but I never said it, never wrote it. Jordan listened, then replayed the waveform in slow motion. "This isn't just your voice pattern," he muttered. "This is resonance, early build, pre-release." I blinked. "How do you know?" He turned the monitor. In the corner of the code, my old dev signature, hidden in the metadata, but below it, something else, something that made his eyebrows lift. "You left a loop flag?" I didn't remember. It was early in development, maybe a test feature. "Memory loop," he whispered. "This version of the AI doesn't just reproduce tone, it mirrors intent, emotional DNA." "What does that mean?" "It means," he said, "they didn't just fake your voice. They accidentally gave it your memory, and memories leave trails." We spent the next 3 days reconstructing the audio source. Every time he replayed the confession, the AI produced slightly different phrasing. Not errors, fragments, echoes of the moments I lived. The night I got the first funding check. The argument with Ethan over ownership clauses. Even the moment I cried in a stairwell because Isabel said I wasn't family, just legally attached. "They trained it on your voice, but you trained it on your pain," Jordan said. I stared at the screen, watching my past spill out in data. My shame, my love, my silence, all encoded in a machine I thought I controlled. Jordan leaned back. "They don't know what they've done. This AI, it's leaking your life." He wasn't wrong. Each simulation was sharper, cleaner. The AI was reconstructing me from my own brokenness, a perfect mirror, but this time I would choose what it reflected. Jordan poured 2 mugs of bitter coffee and dropped something heavy on the table. A flash drive. "I kept this," he said. 5 years ago, Ethan hired me. Told me to erase any link between his law firm and an offshore entity called Meridian Logistics." I froze. I remembered Meridian. It came up once. Ethan brushed it off. "Paper company," he said. "It wasn't. It was a money channel. They were paying politicians, laundering campaign funds. Your husband isn't just a traitor, Madison. He's a liability. And you helped him." "I did," he admitted, "until I saw what happened to the last person who didn't." He played another file. Static, then a woman's voice, distorted. "If I disappear, tell the truth." "Who is she?" "Whistleblower. Dead 2 weeks later. They said suicide. Sound familiar?" The pieces snapped in place, cold and sharp. Jordan looked at me. No judgment, just quiet understanding. "I can't undo what I did, but I can help you burn it down." I stared at the waveform on screen, my voice fractured and alive, looping that final phrase again and again. "I'm sorry. I just can't pretend anymore." "We're not going to expose them," I said. Jordan raised an eyebrow. "We're not?" "No. We're going to let them expose themselves." I took the flash drive. "I'll give them my voice, just not the one they expect." That night, I isolated the most powerful segments from the confession. The trembling, the breathless pauses, the resignation. We fed them back into the loop, but tweaked the intention, bent the context, injected truth inside the lie. When we played it, the voice that answered wasn't just me. It was angry. It was raw. It was real. "You never loved me," it said. Jordan exhaled. "Jesus." I nodded. Send it. To who? All of them. Every board member, every shareholder, every journalist who quoted my death like it was poetry. The email subject line was simple. Wrong file. Here's the final version. We hit send at midnight. Outside, the wind picked up. Inside, the loop kept spinning, digging deeper into itself. Memory after memory, like a burial unearthing its own grave. But I wasn't afraid anymore. Let them hear me. Let them feel what they'd erased. Because now, the algorithm remembered everything I couldn't say. The broadcast began like any other healing session. A warm tone, soft lighting, and Isabel's carefully measured smile. She welcomed her audience like a gracious saint, dressed in beige cashmere and pearls, speaking of grief as though it were a thing she'd once borrowed and returned in perfect condition. Tonight, she said, we honor those who left us too soon, and we give space to those left behind. The chat buzzed with hearts and prayers. Hundreds tuned in, then thousands. It was easy to forget the woman who orchestrated my death was now a self-declared ambassador of healing. I sat beside Jordan, watching the stream flicker on a dozen screens. He adjusted the feed delay, checked the packet route, nodded. We were ready. At the 30-minute mark, the screen flickered, barely noticeable. Isabel's words cut off mid-sentence, replaced by a new voice. Mine. Except not quite mine. It wasn't the farewell speech they'd staged. This voice was curious, cold. What does it feel like to kill someone with code? It asked. Silence. Isabel froze. For a split second, something cracked beneath her expression. Then she laughed, brushing it off as a technical glitch. But the audience didn't buy it. The voice repeated, What does it feel like to kill someone with code? The phrase looped. Once, twice, then vanished. Isabel tried to continue. She couldn't. Comments exploded. Was that Madison? Is this a joke? What's going on? By morning, the clip had gone viral. Edited versions popped up with dramatic music. Podcasts debated its authenticity. Had Madison survived? Or was it her ghost? I didn't correct them. Let doubt do the work. Instead, I went to see the only person who could legally confirm my identity, our corporate attorney, Malcolm Price. His office overlooked downtown, cold glass and colder eyes. I didn't use a disguise, just a hoodie, sunglasses, a voice calm enough to pass as normal. I need 5 minutes, I said. He looked up, confused. Do I know you? You used to, I said. I'm Madison Carter. His smile faltered. That's not funny. I'm not joking. I have voice, DNA, a retinal scan. None of which match, he interrupted. They were all scrubbed after your incident. He slid a folder across the desk. Inside were death certificates, medical reports, signed statements, my own AI voice reading a will I never wrote. They burned every record? I asked. He didn't answer, just stared. Who paid you? Still no answer. I stood. Then I guess I'll speak in the only language this company still believes in. That evening, Ethan hosted a gala in my honor, a celebration of life, a carefully marketed production. He wore black, eyes glossy for the cameras. She was brilliant, he said, and so very tired, I wish I'd known. Behind him, a screen played a montage of photos, me laughing, working, sleeping, all carefully curated, all used without consent. The closing moment was a pre-recorded letter, my voice, flawless and full of pain. I'm sorry, I just couldn't keep pretending everything was okay. I hope you all understand. Jordan and I sat in the shadows, watching from the edge of the ballroom, unnoticed. He whispered, "Play it back." I nodded. I had recorded everything. Later, we analyzed the gala audio, ran it through the loop. Something new emerged. The phrase returned, but altered. You never loved me, and I knew since the night you touched my sister. I froze. Jordan stopped the feed. Run that again? We did. The AI had generated the phrase itself based on emotional context, a neural hallucination, but one rooted in data, real memories, real connections. I whispered, "What does that mean?" Jordan pulled up old logs. "It's finding a truth you haven't admitted." Photos, patterns, dates, late-night text messages between Ethan and Isabel, years before the wedding, a hotel receipt, an audio blip from a deleted voice memo. "Don't worry, she'll never find out." My breath caught. They weren't just co-conspirators. They'd been entangled from the beginning. I wasn't the prize they ruined. I was the barrier they needed to remove. And I had loved them both. I felt the world shift beneath me. The betrayal deepened, not just of trust, but of history, of my place in it. They didn't steal my company. They had never believed I belonged in it. The voice began, calm and chilling. "My name is Isabel Carter," it said, "and I killed my sister-in-law." There was no static, no glitch, no hint of digital synthesis. The cadence was flawless. The tone eerily human. She sounded remorseful, broken even, as if she'd been unraveling for years beneath the weight of what she'd done. The confession lasted 43 seconds. We released it without comment. No watermark, no signature. Just raw audio uploaded anonymously to 5 major forums and let loose to be devoured. Within 2 hours, it had over 2 million plays. Isabel's PR team scrambled. Her spokesperson called it a vile hoax. But that didn't matter. Public opinion had shifted. The world no longer waited for verification. It waited for the next shock. The next day, Isabel appeared live on a morning talk show. Her hands trembled slightly. Her voice cracked. "I did not kill Madison," she said. "That audio is fake. It's not real." The host asked, "But is that your voice?" She hesitated. Yes, it sounds like me, but..." The host leaned forward. "So it's you." And with that, the tide turned. Comment threads exploded. If it's fake, why does she sound guilty? AI doesn't fake hesitation that well. She paused. Why did she pause? Then came the second wave, another file, shorter, softer. This time a woman's voice, older, colder. I knew what Isabel did, and I said nothing. Madison was a complication. We needed her gone. It was our reconstruction of my mother-in-law. The voice pulled from archived interviews, voicemail recordings, charity gala speeches, built with precision, shaped with context, and released with perfect timing. The phrase, "we needed her gone," trended for 36 hours. Suddenly, every charity Isabel had ever spoken at, every award the Carter family had ever received, came under review. The media didn't care if it was fake. The possibility alone was enough. But I wasn't finished. I sent out a press release. Madison Carter will speak at the Global AI Ethics Conference. Live. The announcement hit every major outlet. The location was set, San Francisco, 1 week later. Attendance sold out in under 3 hours. For the first time since my death, I would walk into a room as myself. I stood backstage in a black blazer, pulse steady. Jordan handed me the clicker. "You sure you want to go public?" "They stole my voice," I said. "Now I'll show them how it works." When I stepped onto that stage, the silence was surgical. Journalists, developers, policymakers, all watching. I didn't start with my story. I started with the line of code. "Memory loop," I said, clicking the screen. It wasn't meant to survive, but it did, and in surviving, it remembered everything. Not just sound, not just syntax, emotion, intention, regret. I showed them the confession Isabel never made, the regret my mother-in-law never voiced. I showed them how AI didn't just mimic, it reflected, and then I played the original. "My name is Madison Carter. I did not die." The room erupted. Cameras flashed, phones buzzed, people cried. Later that night, as I stepped outside, Jordan met me with a strange expression. "He knows," he said. "Ethan?" He nodded. "And he's losing it." Apparently, Ethan had stormed into a news station and threatened a reporter who asked about the confessions. A clip showed him grabbing the mic mid-interview, shouting that Madison Carter was a fraud. "She's not real. None of this is real." The anchor stared in horror. The feed was cut seconds later. "He's unraveling," Jordan said. "And Isabel? She's gone dark, but there's more." He pulled out a small hard drive. "What's this?" "A backup from 6 years ago. Ethan hired me to wipe some files, but I made a copy. Call it insurance." I stared at him. "What kind of files?" He handed it to me. "The original pitch deck. His plan to marry you. There's even video, him laying it out to investors. Marrying Madison gives us direct access to resonance. It's not just marriage. It's market leverage." His words, verbatim. The breath caught in my throat. I took the drive and closed my hand around it. This wasn't just betrayal. It had always been business. The courtroom felt more like a data center than a place of justice. Screens lined the walls, each displaying waveforms, timestamps, and AI-generated transcripts. My lawyers stood flanked by engineers and forensic linguists. Across the aisle, Ethan sat rigid in a charcoal suit, eyes sunken, jaw locked. Isabel was absent. "Madison Carter vs. Ethan Carter and Isabel Carter," the clerk announced. "Allegations, identity theft, fraud, and attempted corporate seizure using synthetic voice technology." The judge didn't blink when we requested full access to all AI-generated content tied to my name. Instead, he nodded once. "Proceed." It took days, thousands of files, some buried in obscure cloud backups. But eventually, one surfaced, dated March 3, 2021. Audio only, unedited, a boardroom recording. Ethan's voice, calm and deliberate. "We don't need her to lead. Madison is a token wife, a brand. People like her face. It sells trust." There was no outrage in the room, just agreement and silence. I felt my chest tighten. I had suspected, but suspicion and proof live on different planets. The next morning, Isabel's mother, my former mother-in-law, appeared on a talk show to defend her children. She wore somber tones, a widow's scarf, and a trembling lower lip. "My son adored Madison," she insisted. "They were young, driven. He was misguided, not malicious." And then, unprompted, she added, "I told him it would help the firm. That a wife like her, with that kind of poise, that story, it would open doors." The host went still. "You told him to marry her?" She blinked. "For PR, yes, but that doesn't mean—" Too late. The clip went viral before the credits rolled. By the end of the week, public sympathy fractured. Some people applauded my pursuit of justice. Others asked if I had gone too far. Is this still justice or vengeance wrapped in code? What happens when the voice of the victim becomes the weapon? They didn't know the answer. Neither did I. I sat in my office, the old one I never thought I'd see again, now stripped of their influence. The walls were bare. The logo was gone. Just me and silence. Then came the knock. It was Jordan, holding a folder. "You should see this." Inside, a police report. Isabel found unconscious in her apartment, surrounded by pills. She'd survived. Barely. They'd moved her to a psychiatric facility under surveillance. "I didn't want this," I said. "No," Jordan replied. "But you didn't cause it either." "And Ethan?" "Arrested. Denied bail. Multiple charges pending." I leaned back, letting it sink in. The war was over, or so I thought. 2 days later, I received a summons from the U.S. Congressional Committee on AI Ethics. Subject: weaponized empathy. The case of resonance. Apparently, the use of my technology, its ability to emulate human grief, guilt, and regret, had set off alarms. Lawmakers feared it might destabilize more than families. It could erode the very trust society had in voice, in truth itself. Now they wanted answers. At the hearing, I sat alone at the center table. A row of senators stared down from their elevated seats. Microphones glared like spotlights. "Ms. Carter," one senator began, "do you understand the implications of your software?" "I do," I said. You created a system capable of mimicking remorse, of manufacturing apology. No, I replied. I created a system that reveals it. It doesn't fabricate guilt. It reflects it. Another senator leaned forward. And what happens when that reflection is used to destroy someone's life? I didn't blink. Then they should ask, I said, why the mirror was needed in the first place. Murmurs spread. Flashes clicked. The press devoured every word. But I wasn't here to defend myself. I was here to say what no one else had. I didn't weaponize empathy, I said. They did. I gave it a voice. And finally, the truth is loud enough to be heard. I never meant for it to outlive me. Resonance was built to capture nuance, to give machines a way to reflect us, not replace us. But once the world heard what it could do, they refused to let it go. It spread faster than I imagined. Hospitals used it to help children process trauma. Therapists in war zones deployed it as a translation tool for grief. Priests used it to deliver last rites when they couldn't be there in person. And I became a ghost in my own invention. The hearings ended, but the questions never did. I refused to speak at panels, refused interviews. Every journalist wanted to know, what now? What would Madison Carter do next? But I had no next. I had nothing left to prove. 1 week after the final ruling, I accessed the root repository of resonance for the last time. Line after line of my original code scrolled past. I highlighted them all, paused at the final line, and then delete. Everything gone, except one thing, code 44, a fragment buried deep in the architecture, a line I wrote late one night when I was still learning what pain could sound like through a machine. Only guilt creates voice. It was never meant to be active, but now it was the only thing I left behind. The system wouldn't work unless the user had something to confess, a tether between intention and expression, a burden. Without it, the voice would be silent. I walked away from the company that morning, signed the papers, surrendered every share, every seat, no press release, no explanation. The world kept spinning, and resonance kept echoing. Months passed, then stories surfaced. Quiet ones tucked between headlines. A teacher in Detroit used my voice to recite poems to a classroom of children who'd lost parents to violence. A hospice worker in Malaysia used the system to deliver farewells to families who couldn't reach home in time. One child, a boy with PTSD, whispered, "The voice makes me feel like someone's listening." I didn't cry when I read that. I just closed my laptop, left the apartment key on the table, and disappeared. Iceland welcomed me like a secret, harsh, quiet, honest. I rented a cabin at the edge of a fjord where the snow never apologized and the wind didn't ask questions. My name wasn't Madison here, just M, the woman who liked silence, the one who never answered her phone. Each morning I recorded a phrase, just one, uplifting, steady. Not for anyone in particular, but not for me either. I uploaded them to a free server. No tags, no trace. They floated, disembodied, across the internet like digital paper cranes. Some got reused in meditation apps, others were layered over ambient playlists, a few went viral in ways I never intended. Still, no one knew it was me, and I didn't tell them. I heard once that when a fire dies out, it leaves behind a different kind of warmth. Not heat, memory. Ethan was sentenced to 15 years without parole. His final defense fell apart when the court saw footage of him pitching our marriage as an investment strategy. He didn't even flinch when they read the verdict. Isabel never stood trial. After the overdose, she spiraled. She now lived in a psychiatric facility under a different name. Sometimes she sang to herself, a loop of childhood lullabies. A therapist once noted, her voice is perfectly modulated, almost unnatural. My mother-in-law opened a bakery in Vermont. She declined all interviews. A small sign sits in her window. We do not serve the press. And me? I spent my days watching the sea grow ice again. The quiet was not punishment. It was liberation. Every voice that had tried to use mine, twist mine, erase mine, they had all gone silent, and the one I chose to keep was mine alone. There are no more confessions left, no more accusations, no more ghosts, just breath, cold air, and words I speak into a microphone because I still believe they can help someone, somewhere, feel less alone. This morning, I recorded. Some voices aren't made to be loud, just undeniable. I clicked upload. The file disappeared into the ether, and then I shut it all down. No fanfare, no backup, no password, just a cursor blinking. Then one final line, memory loop terminated.